Welcome to my weekly podcast, Later That Same Life, the further adventures of Larry Fedoruk. And let me just say, like my previous podcast series, I Was 8, these are true stories. Only some of the names have been changed. Last week I talked about my very first job in radio, a campus FM station. Great gig until George Carlin got me fired. So yeah, that's where we'll pick it up this week.
Season 1, Chapter 7, George Carlin.
We need a bit of a recap before we get to Carlin. So I wanted to take a year off right after high school to go find myself, but I looked around, turns out I was right there the whole time. So instead, I enrolled at the University of Saskatchewan in my hometown of Saskatoon, a basic Bachelor of Arts program. And during a campus tour, I signed up as a volunteer at the campus radio station, a licensed on-air citywide FM station run by students. I loved it. Spent as much time there as I could, learning radio and media, at the expense of some of my classes. The station had a general manager, old Mr. Walden, a paid employee of the university, and a program director that was a student who, upon appointment, received a salary. Actually, come to think of it, the radio station had a secretary. She came in half days, twice a week, helped out with some stuff for Mr. Walden. I don't know, she seemed busy. At the end of my second year, my dedication paid off. I was appointed program director of CJUS-FM, 3,800 watts of student power. I'm the boss of you kids. My tenure started that summer. I wouldn't even turn 20 until the fall, but I had this great paying job doing something I loved. A buddy of mine and I got a 2-bedroom basement apartment near the campus. Life was good. By the fall, some of our radio stalwarts returned to school, a new group of volunteers appeared, and my job as program director really began. We had an eclectic mix of content, different talk, different music, hosted mostly by students. But the most coveted show, every kid wanted to host one, was our progressive music show. 10 to midnight, Monday through Friday, and Sunday afternoons between 1 and 3, and it was called Are You Ready? Sitting Down. The Groove Yard. Could there be a cooler name for a late-night 1970s FM radio student-powered music program? No! The Groove Yard. Not just anyone could host a Groove Yard. You had to have been around a while. You had to have a certain cachet, a groove, if you will. Music knowledge, hipness, an aloof quality helped, and so on and so on. The individuals who hosted the Groove Yard were the coolest people at the radio station, coolest on campus, and had been there a long time. Would probably hold on to their Groove Yard shows until they graduated. Now, I said the Groove Yard was our progressive music show, but it was really mostly rock. Hosts would also mix in tracks from a jazz album or a classical piece, or spoken word. That made the show more choice, more out of sight. They would read passages in poetry themselves sometimes. They would play an entire side of an album. One host would play some wind chimes between tracks. Another once recorded the sound of everyone on her dorm floor breathing and played that back for like 15 minutes, just the sounds of breathing. It was existential. Mostly, though, it was the progressive rock of the day, the anti-AM FM. Welcome to the Groove Yard. The Sunday afternoon Groove Yard was hosted by one of the Big Five on a rotating basis. One December Sunday afternoon, I was at the radio station. Brad Target was hosting, one of our most hip Groove Yard hosts. Kind of looked like David Crosby if he'd never gotten any sleep. Brad came out of the studio and said, "Hey, Larry, I want to play George Carlin's 7 Words You Can Never Say on Television." "Oh, geez, I don't know, Brad. What's the deal?" "Well," he said, "I want to read from this editorial about language and the power of words and how words only have meaning that we as a society assign to them." Then I'd play the Carlin track, and then I'd play "Please Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood" by the Animals. Comedy albums were a bigger deal in the day, regularly featured on the Groove Yard. We had our favorites, National Lampoon's Lemmings, Cheech and Chong, of course, and the master himself, George Carlin. But this one, I don't know. It was from the album Glass Clown, and the track itself had become very famous and one of our favorites, played at every party. But on air? Hey, if you've never heard it, the words are, and I'm not going to say them. I mean, I could. There's nothing legally preventing me from saying them, but let's just say the 7 words are S-bomb, P-word, F-bomb, female C-word, 10-letter C-word, 12-letter MF-bomb, and tits. Okay, I said the last one. Obviously, the airing of words 3, 4, 5, and 6 were of greater concern to me than of 1, 2, or 7. Brad pointed out that the F-bomb had been on the airwaves of our station before. I remembered. We had run a CBC documentary about unrest that featured demonstrators yelling F-bombs at the police. We had a big meeting and discussion, including our general manager, Mr. Walden. Should we bleep out the words? Should we edit them out entirely? We decided that as a bold new medium, we would simply ahead of time offer a disclaimer warning of offensive language, and we'd let the audio run as is. We did. No one complained. I recalled that meeting. It was critical to my thinking. Maybe not actual critical thinking, but critical to my thinking. Okay, go ahead, Brad. But I'll tell you what, I want you to also do a clear warning and disclaimer before you play the Carlin track. Some of the following content may, etc., etc., etc. Done. I sat back, turned up the monitor, and listened as Brad Target executed the bit exactly as he said he would. Language, words, meaning, disclaimer, Carlin. The piece, by the way, runs about 7 minutes, and he repeats the words a few times. And then, of course, oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. 3 p.m., the show's over, Brad leaves, I go home, mostly forgot about the whole thing. When I got to the station on Monday, Mr. Walden called me into his office. There had been a complaint about a segment on the Groove Yard from yesterday. It involved the airing of a George Carlin track. The blood may have drained from my face at that moment. Really? Yes, go on. Mr. Walden had called Brad at home to express concern about Brad's choices on content. Brad said he cleared it with the program director. Ah, and that would be me. Well, yes, I was here, and I gave him the go-ahead. Mr. Walden had received a call at home on Sunday from the Chancellor of the Board of Governors of the entire university to express his dismay that important university funding was going towards such garbage, and whomever was responsible would have to be brought up in front of the board for discipline. To Mr. Walden's credit, he wasn't mad at me or even really disagreed with my decision, but he did communicate the gravity of the situation. He said he'd know more in a day or two. End of meeting. I went for a walk so I could take some time to think. The Board of Governors? I'll bet they didn't even know the kids had a campus FM station. I could understand a listener complaint. But the chancellor of the entire university? Some 80-year-old lifetime academic? Rocking out to the Groove Yard on a Sunday? It didn't make sense. I found out what actually happened, what went down. And by the way, feel free to run ahead of me as this part of the story unfolds. Apparently, the bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Saskatoon had recently been gifted a brand new AM/FM cabinet stereo system by some parishioners. On that particular December Sunday, he was hosting a tea. His guests, a group of nuns, the Sisters of the Immaculate Credenza, or something, I don't know. But anyway, there they were. As tea was poured, the bishop suggested some music from his new stereo device. He didn't have any records, but hey, I heard those kids at the campus university station play some classical music on the FM. Wouldn't that be lovely? What are the chances they'd tune in the preamble or the warning disclaimer? No, must have been divine intervention. They turned up the volume right at the beginning of George Carlin. Classic, but not classical. Bishop, nuns, tea, finger sandwiches, and S-bomb, P-word, F-bomb, female C-word, 10-letter C-word, 12-letter MF-bomb, and tits, repeated a few times. Happy Sunday, Catholics. Hey, how was tea at the bishop's house? The bishop was aghast, as were the nuns. Some would take a lifetime to recover from this episode, this trauma, except, of course, for that one who spontaneously combusted on the sofa. The bishop called his buddy, the university chancellor. He called Mr. Walden. Mr. Walden called Brad. All signs pointed to Larry, and it all made sense to me now. I was in big trouble. By Wednesday, Mr. Walden had told me I was to be called up in front of an emergency session of the University Radio Committee. Radio Committee? There's a radio committee? All right. Disciplinary action would be decided at that time. The meeting was scheduled for the week before the Christmas break. Also, since my initial Monday meeting, I had started to become a little bit famous. Infamous, maybe. Even though Brad Target was the host, word got out that I gave the go-ahead. Cool. You know, he's in big trouble with the university. Even cooler. People would stop me as I walked on the campus wanting to talk about censorship. Hey, can't right now, thanks. Hey, dude, buy you a beer. Yeah, thanks, maybe later. Huh. Even the radio station secretary suddenly wanted to sleep with me. I did not turn that one down. Linda, Laura. Yeah, okay, well, whatever. Somewhat ironically, as a result, I experienced one of the 7 words. No, wait just a minute, I guess 4 of them. Well, we got organized to fight this thing. Our anti-establishment secret society included the president of the student union treasurer, editor of the student newspaper, and me. 4 wits of student power. Our theme? They can't push us around. They won't shut us up. If they do, let's see how they like it when 10,000 students walk out of class. The entire campus bowl area swarming with angry kids carrying picket signs, chanting, "Save Larry's job! Save Larry's job!" Hey, you know, we could get them to chant the 7 words. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Love it. Write it down. Hey, we could call George Carlin. He'd support us. Yeah, how would we do that? I don't know, man, but it's a good idea. Write it down. Now, the editor of the newspaper was a law student. He looked all of this up. We may not need to do that, he said. The University Radio Committee was formed when the radio station started over a decade ago. They had never met once. There had been no need till now. But there was a committee constitution with rules. Firstly, the chair of the radio committee shall be the sitting student program director. And further, the chair, and only the chair, i.e. you, Larry, is allowed to convene a meeting of the radio committee. Did you convene this meeting, Larry? No, you didn't. Meeting, therefore, invalid. End of story. Wow, good one. The day of the big meeting came, radio committee, Mr. Walden included. Most all of the University Board of Governors were somehow magically also on this committee. We were in some huge, old, dark boardroom upstairs in the admin building. I'd never been in a boardroom before. Saw them on TV. Big portraits on the walls. Classic. I sat at the head of the long table, looking down the 2 rows of old men in 3-piece suits. I wore jeans and a Genesis t-shirt. A secretary was there to take minutes. I nervously began. According to the bylaws of the committee, only the chair can convene a meeting. I am the chair. Didn't convene this meeting. I declare this meeting to be invalid. Aha! I had them. They underestimated me for sure. Didn't know I'd do my homework, did ya? Yeah, your move, suckers. Within about 2 seconds, I heard from down the table, motion to select a new chair, seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion to nominate Bill as the chair, seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Bill, I call the meeting to order. And then they ripped me a new one. I did get a chance to mumble through my defense. Freedom of speech, words meaning don't let me be misunderstood. The Animals. You heard the Animals? It's a good band. England. Noted. They passed a motion recommending dismissal from the job and not from school, with a final decision to be made immediately after the Christmas break. Adjourned. I went back to the secrets. Tammy, her name was Tammy. That's right. Okay. Anyway, so I went back to the secret society, told them what had happened. No worries, Larry. Plan B. We'll call Carlin. We'll organize pamphlets, handouts, picket signs, walkout. Actually, we did try to call George Carlin. This is pre-internet and digital. So, 11-digit dialing on a rotary phone for each call. Tammy gave us Mr. Walden's long-distance code, so at least the university paid for all the calls. We remembered a former student who was rumored to have moved to Los Angeles. Los Angeles, good place to start, so we called his old roommate who gave us the number of his sister in Calgary. She gave us his number, and he gave us the number of a company in L.A., who gave us the number of some guy, who gave us the number of another guy in New York, who gave us the phone number for Carlin's manager, who told us that Mr. Carlin's tour schedule was full, and there would be no available dates for the next 12 months. No, not a tour. This is a protest. 7 words. Voice of a generation. Never mind. We didn't get George Carlin. Over the years, I've come to believe that our actual request never got to George himself. Otherwise, he would have come. That's what I choose to believe. As the age of easier communication began, I often thought of reaching out to him with an old story. I never did. George Carlin passed in 2008. We got back to school. The old guys' radio committee, with their brand new chair, decided to go with the dismissal idea. Not only did they fire me for the Carlin incident, but they also pointed out that even prior to this, I didn't technically qualify for the radio job. You had to be a full-time student. I had only signed up for a couple of classes that year, and my attendance records for those classes abysmal. Nil, actually. Yeah, I guess there's that. You got me there. They asked me if I had any final statement. I wondered if they could call the bishop to pray for me. Hey, I still had some smart ass left in me. How about that protest now, the walkout? Christmas break took the spirit out of that project. everyone kind of lost interest on the big walkout. I got my stuff, left the radio station, walked off campus, never went back. Had to give up the apartment, move back home. Tammy stopped calling. George Carlin's 7 words you can never say on television piece will soon turn 50 years old. 50 years on. The words, for the most part, just as dirty as they were one Sunday afternoon at the bishop's house. I still have a screen in my house I call the TV, and I've heard all of those words and more coming from it. So that has changed in its own way. Many today have given up on words altogether. Text, speak, abbreviations. That way we can say things without saying them. LMAO. OMG. WTF. WTF. Indeed.
Later That Same Life is a weekly podcast series written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. A new episode every Thursday. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com.
Yeah, you never know what's going to be on the list. Because it's always somebody else's list. You didn't make that up. Somebody told you that shit. They told you, better not say that. So you gotta, and you don't know what's going to be on their list. God, people's lists even change from day to day. Some people on Friday night got a list, about 2 or 3 words. Sunday morning, goddamn, there's like 27 words. These are the same people 2 days later. Different list. So you got to kind of watch out what you're going to believe from them. The trouble is, I was trying to find out what these words might be. And I wanted to know the ones that you could never say on television. I mean the filthy words that are always filthy.